My name's Stephen Clardy, and I run the risk management team for Microsoft Online Services.
Okay.
And in normal speak, that's a security team, a privacy team, business continuity, and the regulatory compliance teams. Well, so we're going to be the ones that are responsible for making sure that the services themselves are safe, that the services, if they run into any kind of technical problem or person problem, are recoverable, that the data in these services is safe, that the customer's privacy is upheld, that the data maintains its integrity. That both means it doesn't get corrupted, and it also means that it's available when a customer wants it. One of the unique things about Microsoft Online Services as opposed to Microsoft's enterprise products is that not only do we write the software, but we actually run the software as a service, and we're co-custodians of a customer's data. And that's new territory for us. So that's what I do, is I make sure that as a company and as a business we understand what the customer's expectations are, we understand what our obligations are legally, and that we use the right technology and processes to safeguard both our services as well as the customer's information. We signed a consent decree without actually having any kind of security or privacy issue. That issue was our ability to tell our story crisply. And as a requirement of this consent decree, we had to basically formalize our security program, build out a dedicated security function, build out a policy, and then be subjected to audit every 2 years for a 20-year period. We took that, we applied it to Passport, we made it through the audit, and then we just generalized that capability and that concept, spread it out broader and broader across consumer services, spread it across our enterprise services as they began coming online, and we used this sort of head start as a way of figuring out how to deal with the complexity of regulations, of audits, of government inquiry, of customer inquiry. And so I've taken what I learned back then, brought it to these business services, and applied it here. We achieved ISO certification earlier in this year. We've maintained the CES 70 report. So we have these external validations of our internal posture and capabilities around security, privacy, continuity. We're also leveraging that in the future. We're expanding at a tremendous pace right now, and that really translates in my world to more regulations, more scrutiny, more customer concerns, more customer inquiries. As we get into specific customer sets, specific geographies, along with it comes certain predefined expectations, laws, regulations, standards to adhere to. And the processes that we put in place to get generic ISO certifications are what allows us to accelerate in getting in alignment and meeting compliance in a whole number of other places. For instance, we'll go after what's called HIPAA. It's around health information, private consumer health information, and there's laws around that. We'll also go after FISMA, which is a U.S. law around federal information systems, and leveraging what we put in place for ISO, we're able to build an entire program to align ourselves with the NIST standard and with FISMA by extension, and we're able to do that in a few months rather than a few years. Two ways. One, they may mandate certain technologies be in place. Most of them aren't that prescriptive, but what they do ask for is that you do a risk assessment or risk evaluation of your particular environment, your particular systems, then you come up with the right technology or the right processes in order to address risks that you've identified. So most of these have a forcing function in that they bring the need to implement something. A lot of times, and traditionally, that something's been implemented in the infrastructure itself, scanning capabilities, network devices. But as we become more and more mature here and get the base products sort of taken care of, we can start augmenting them with security features, privacy features, embedded and native in the product itself. Our philosophy here is that we try to enable the customer to have control over their own data, ownership over their own data. So we put privacy enabling capabilities into the products themselves. Customers are their own administrators. Customers keep track of who's going where. Customers can allow or deny people access at different levels of granularity. It's only in a rare case that a Microsoft employee has to go on behalf of a customer to the data and do some sort of retrieval. Well, so it's going to sound typical, but we start with policy. What are our concerns? What are our requirements? Who are they applicable to? And we distribute that through training, we distribute that through monitoring, we distribute that through a compliance management program. We do employ technologies to detect intrusions on the network, anomalies in the network traffic and behaviors, hardening of the OS, antivirus, all the things that you'd expect. We also employ secure development lifecycle. Microsoft's built this thing as a component of the Trustworthy Services initiative introduced by Gates years ago. That is alive and well. It includes security best practices as well as privacy best practices. It's mandatory as applied against all of our service software, any software, any product built in the company. And so we take advantage of that sort of built-in native capability. We start at the infrastructure, at the physical facility where we run the data, run the services out of, and move up the network, move to the infrastructure, into the platform or the applications themselves, up to the OS. And so we have multiple layers, a threat model that looks at all of these things in combination as well as discrete characters. And then we've added this special sauce, if you will. Online services is all about distributed computing. You need to understand who you're connecting to on the other side. Your threat surface essentially expands because you're not going it alone any longer. You're not a self-contained unit. You actually have dependencies on authentication systems and storage systems and distribution mechanisms. So you end up building a dependency matrix and understanding who you're connecting to and getting a semblance of the level of integrity of that system as well. Cloud is introducing some unknowns. They bring efficiencies, they bring great capability, they bring great flexibility, but with them there's additional threat introduced, so you have to incorporate that into your model as well. Something to keep in mind, we, by offering services, are subjected to certain regulations and requirements ourselves. Offering services to customers in healthcare and finance and public sector, that brings additional compliance obligations. In most cases, we cannot singly or by ourselves meet the compliance obligations of these customers. What we can offer is our part of the stack, our part of the control set, our part of the processes. Provide the information that the customer needs to combine with their own set of material and let the customer represent their compliance. And so we build programs that allow customers to be able to claim HIPAA compliance, for instance, meet FERPA requirements, for instance. FSMA is the same way. We can build a system and operate a system in accordance with the expectations are, but the customer is the one that does the final accreditation, the final kick the tires and make sure everything's all right. The simple one is we offer trial. So do a small trial, a small subset of your user base, a user base that you're not concerned about the nature of the data, and get a feel for, actually using the service. The real answer is do your research, read our material, study us compared to our competitors and other people offering services out there on the internet. Look at our customers that we've landed, financial institutions, health institutions, insurance agencies. Look at the customers that will land in the future, customers in the public sector, government agencies. Look at the track record of the people out there and the competitors that are out there right now. And look at our track record well beyond the 5 years ago when we first started offering services. We're offering our enterprise software in our data centers running as services now. The same software that you know and love if you're in an enterprise right now, the same level of security with an overlay of all the operational security and operational controls that you'd want in your own environment, may or may not have in your own environment. And that's what we're offering. We're not an outsourced custom shop. We're a standard